What's up, guys? My name is Tony, aka Son of the Bat, and you are watching the Hall of Justice.
It's climber time! That could blow up the...
Welcome back to the Hall of Justice, where each week we review new comic books coming out for that week. We, of course, are recording live from San Diego Comics, one of the oldest comic shops in San Diego with one of the largest varieties of back issues. And today, to start things off, I want to go ahead and talk to you about some indies. First indie book that we're talking about is Shaghai Red. This is by Christopher Sebela and Joshua Hickson, and it's the first issue of an ongoing series. Basically, it starts off with these people who were turned into slaves, brought on a ship, and one of them actually has the strength to go ahead and fight their captors. Trying to find their way back home, you find out that this person that's going by the name Red is actually a female, when everyone on the ship actually thought it was a male. There's a bit of history going into their background in regards to where they came from, but they really don't know how they ended up on the ship. Like I said, it's called Shaghai Red. The art style is different. It's a little all over the place to me. It was a pretty interesting read, but this first issue was definitely built to go ahead and establish an origin for the character Red and some of the supporting characters as well. It is a little mature, so I just want to go ahead and let you guys know that before you go ahead and pick it up. Again, that's Shaghai Red by Image Comics. Our second book, and this one is from Aftershock Comics, is The Lost City Explorers. And when you take a look at the front page of this comic book, to me, it looks like you're going to get into something very similar to the Goonies. I don't feel that the book is that. If anything, the group of people in it are a little bit older. It does start off with an exploration gone wrong. There is a group of archaeologists finding their way through a hidden city, and then some entity does start to attack them. So there's a little bit of mystery. There's a little bit of, looks like magic or supernatural occurrences in this book. It's just kind of introducing you to the new characters, which are on the cover, and it's interesting. I want to go ahead and continue reading it so I can share it with you guys. But again, it is The Lost City Explorers by Aftershock Comics, and it's written by Zach Kaplan. Now, to end our indie comics, I wanted to go ahead and end on Michael Turner's Fathom #1. Now, Fathom's been around for a little while now. Aspen Comics itself as a publisher, which was Michael Turner, who was an artist. This was his baby. That's been around for about 15 years now, and there's been about 20 years of Fathom. So going into this, there really isn't much else to know about Fathom other than the fact that, yeah, her brother Finn, who has the same powers as she does for the most part, is in trouble. You get a bit of an origin story being retold in this. Basically the government requires her assistance in finding her brother, and the adventure kind of starts from there. It's a good read. The art in here is actually very, very well done. I do love the color in here for sure. And yeah, it's like I said, if you know who Fathom is, you really don't need to read anything from the past to get into this. But it's a pretty strong start, and I think I'm going to go ahead and pick it up and see where it goes from here. That, again, is Michael Turner, Fathom #1. Now, there were a few things from DC that came out this week, but the most important one to me and to most of the people here in the shop is Batman #49. Of course, we have Tom King continuing to write this story, and this is the last issue before we get to the wedding and Batman #50. So this is, like it shows on the cover, you have Joker versus Catwoman. In the last issue, you had Batman fighting against the Joker in a cathedral. He gets knocked out, and now it is Catwoman and Joker. It's pretty, I want to say, punny, because that's all you get back and forth between Catwoman and the Joker are a bunch of puns. And it is pretty good. It's a fun read because they're both sitting there explaining their relationships that they have with the Dark Knight himself, and why the Joker finds himself to be so important in the Dark Knight's life. So while they're both sitting there basically dying, you have them going back and forth in regards to who's more important than the other. But the art in here, of course, it continues to be really, really good, and I can't wait for #50. But right now, we do have 49 this week, Batman, and if you do stop by the shop and you are in San Diego, there is a cover B available. I'll probably have it up right here, and that is a variant cover B that is really beautiful. I believe it is by Art Germ. That is really cool, and they do have it available at the shop. Now, starting off with Marvel, we are ending the series for this volume of The Amazing Spider-Man number 801. This is Dan Slott's last book for Spider-Man that he will be writing, and it's a pretty simple send-off. It's not as big or as groundbreaking as issue number 800, which of course ended going down swinging and having us get introduced to the Red Goblin. However, this does give you a citizen's eye view of their relationship with Spider-Man and what that meant to them. There's some pretty colorful, splash pages in here. It's nothing too crazy. There is a meeting between the civilian who saw Spider-Man a few years ago, and he introduces himself to Spider-Man and says, "You saved my life before, and you also changed the way I look at the rest of my life." So it was kind of heartfelt for the most part. But again, this is the last issue Dan Slott is doing for Spider-Man, and it will be the last issue for this volume because we will be going into Spider-Man number 1 coming up really soon. But this, again, is Amazing Spider-Man, Dan Slott's last story on the book, and this is number 801. Continuing with things that are ending in Marvel, this one, not so much ending the book itself, but the story, is X-Men Gold, number 30, and this is going into Till Death Do Us Part, which is Colossus and Kitty Pryde's wedding. I'm not going to give too much away other than they reminisce on their history together. They talk about all of the ups and downs that they've been through, and the ending is quite unexpected for those who haven't read any previews. I'm not going to share any of it, but the store does have X-Men Gold number 30. This is ending that arc, Till Death Do Us Part, between Colossus and Kitty Pryde. If you are, again, in San Diego, they do have the regular copy as well as the J. Scott Campbell variant. Now, going into Marvel one-shots, we have the Infinity Countdown Black Widow number 1. This was pretty interesting to me because it's tying into the whole return of Wolverine as well as the Infinity Stones themselves. As we know, the Black Widow does have possession of one of the Infinity Stones, and she's basically running around trying to figure out what to do with it and who to give it to for safekeeping. One of the people that she runs into is Jamie Braddock, and for those of you who don't know, he is the brother of Captain Britain, and he himself is doing some magic and delving into that, trying to find the Infinity Stones himself. The book itself is okay. It doesn't read like anything too crazy. There's a character that does get shown in here, but no name is given. I believe it to be Captain Britain, but it's up to you to decide, and also for the writers, obviously, to make the final choice. But it was an okay read. It really wasn't that important to me in regards to the Infinity Countdown itself, but it was still decent. If I were to rate it, I would honestly only give it about a 7 out of 10. So nothing too crazy, nothing too bad. But again, that is Black Widow number 1, Infinity Countdown tie-in. Moving on, we read Avengers number 3. This continues the run with Jason Aaron and Ed McGuinness as the main artist, which I love. He's one of my favorites. And we were introduced early on in this new volume to the final host. So you do have a battle between the Avengers and Loki, which started in the last issue, issue number 2. And you do have a couple of other characters show up, which have been throughout the first 3 issues, including Robbie Reyes and She-Hulk. The art in here, of course, if you love Ed McGuinness like I do, is not going to disappoint. But there is a reveal at the end for what I believe is a new character, so a bit of a first appearance. I'm not going to show you guys. I'm not going to tell you who it is. You'll have to pick it up to take a look and see for yourselves. But again, that is Avengers number 3. Now, to end the Marvel run, as well as this show, I wanted to go ahead and show you the beginning of Tony Stark Iron Man number 1. Now, Dan Slott is moving from Spider-Man over to Iron Man, and it's a pretty fun start, to say the least. We, of course, as with any Iron Man comic, are introduced to a few different armors. I'll go ahead and show you this one. It's a bit of a Voltron armor to me, but it is his Fing Fang Foom Buster. There are a couple more throughout the issue, and I highly recommend picking it up, but it's pretty fun. He does talk to an old, I would say, competitor of his in the tech industry before he became as big as he is. This person is coming to help him and comes on board the Stark Foundation, so assisting him and Jocasta in fighting any type of villain or situation that comes their way. The art in here is actually pretty good. I'm going to stick with it. The only downside to this book itself is the fact that there are so many variants, and the store itself has about 30 or 40 of them. I'm looking at one of my coworkers right now because it's a little ridiculous how many there are, but we do have a bunch of them. If you guys are interested, stop by the shop and take a look and your pick, because there are a ton of different armor variants out there for Tony Stark. So guys, that is all my books in review for this week. If you're interested, again, stop on by. We are San Diego Comics off El Cajon Boulevard, where all new comics and trades are 15% off, and all back issues are 25% off any book under $25. As always, I want to go ahead and shout out Joe June for creating the intro and outro for this video. You can listen to more of his music at joejune.com and follow him on social media at Joe June Music and at Vision Flow Records for both Twitter and Instagram. And guys, if you want to go ahead and support the channel, we would love for you to become a patron by going to patreon.com/tsfpod and pledging any amount that you're comfortable with so that you can earn rewards and gain access to exclusive content. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode. I will catch you next week. Later.
It's clever and tough. That could blow up the